Welcome, beautiful friends, to the Way of Mastery, lesson number 4, following the thread of desire. Musical chairs? Okay, on 3, everybody switch. Following the thread of desire. How many of you were here for the channeling last week? That's powerfully beautiful, liberating stuff, isn't it? For those of you who weren't, just real quick if you haven't heard it, he's going to address in this lesson about allowing our conflicted desire to try and heal it, to allow desire to come up. You know, most of the time living our lives, we weren't as conflicted about it until you got on a spiritual path, and then you get deeply conflicted about it. Oh, is this spirit or desire? Or is this ego desire? He doesn't make any distinction about good, bad, right, or wrong. He just talks about allowing desire and how desire is the fundamental aspect of creation. So just real quick, is there anyone in this room who at least your body was not manufactured because there was some level of desire? I mean, you don't jump in the back seat of the car or wherever this happened without some kind of desire. How about everything you see in this room? Did someone not desire to make it and manufacture it and create it? And I'm so grateful we have ceiling fans and air conditioning and lights and cameras and all that kind of stuff. So we've kind of learned, especially within the world's context of religion, that desire is bad, especially sexual desire. And he addressed sex and money in this lesson, which of course aren't those the two things we're most conflicted about, sex and money. So we're going to address that tonight. He's also going to introduce the 4th axiom of the pathway, which we'll probably not get to this week. It'll be next week. But we're going to start by reviewing the first 3 axioms that there's been in the pathway so far. Thank you, Cindy.
I am as my Father created me to be. I am free, and nothing sources my experience but me in each moment. Nothing has an effect on me whatsoever, save that which I choose to allow it to affect me. I need do nothing. I do not live any ordinary moments. With each breath, my experiences are the stepping stones laid before me of God to guide me home. Therefore, I will bring awareness to each moment and allow it to teach me how to forgive, how to embrace, how to love, and therefore, how to fully live.
Wow. Well, these first 3 axioms in the pathway pretty much turn our experience of the world completely upside down. In our egoic consciousness, we pretty much feel like we're a victim. Everybody makes us feel things we don't want to feel, makes us pay taxes we don't want to pay. Cause seems to be outside of us, and we seem to be a victim to all of that. I need do nothing. We don't believe that. We believe we need a house. We believe we need food. We believe we need money. We believe we need a sexy spouse. We believe we need all kinds of things. And we do not live any ordinary moments. How many of you experience boredom? Well, he's saying we don't live any ordinary moments. They're actually extraordinary, but because we're not present and open to what the moment is and what's really happening, we get caught up in a mind which says nothing's happening here, and we experience boredom. So these 3 axioms are critical to any authentic spiritual path. Victims don't wake up, ever. And those who are doing to awaken, oftentimes we go on a spiritual path, we start working really friggin' hard at it. But of course that has to rest on the assumption that we actually are separate from our source and we're not what we truly are. Because if we recognize the truth, why would we have to work at anything to become what we already are? And then of course the boredom, ordinary moments. So those are the foundations. If you've got issues with those, go to your inner guide and say, I need to get cleared up about these so I really know what these are. If you're not embodying these to the greatest extent you can or working on them, you're just really getting a new theology, which is okay. Theologies are fine, but they're not peace. So we'll start with the Lord's Prayer. So just sit back and relax. Remember to, at least in your mind, it will appear as though you're hearing this in your ears. It's coming from outside of you into your ears. Rather, at least within your being, just imagine that this prayer is arising within your being.
Avun, the Boshmaya, Nita Kadash Shamar, Tete Malkuda, Neve Sivinach, Akina the Boshmaya Oparaha, Haulan Lachman Zunkanan Yamana, Boshwoklan Halpin, Akina Daphanan, Shwakin El Hayabin, Ula Talan El Nisyan, El Pasam Membisha, but had lachim al kuda, uhaila, utish bhakta, la alam, amin, amen.
For those of you who are new or maybe watching online, if you'd like Yeshua's translation of the Aramaic Lord's Prayer into English, which is hugely, significantly different than the one you might have heard when you were growing up, I have them on the other side of the fireplace. You're welcome to take one, or you can send me an email at love@onewhowakes, and I'll send it to you. Just a reminder, waking up can be absolutely fun and joyful. The seriousness, the heaviness is all of the separated egoic consciousness. So don't take this so stinking seriously. Let's have some fun waking up. Ready, Cindy?
Mm-hmm. Now we begin. And once again, greetings unto you, beloved and holy friends. Once again, it is with great joy that we come forth to abide with you in this manner. It is with great joy that I come forth with my friends to abide with you in this hour. It is with great joy that I walk with you on the way that you have chosen, for in truth there is not a time that I am not with you. There is not a place in which you can journey where you will not discover my presence.
So for those of us who think God is a judger, or Jesus is a judger and like died for our lousy sins or something, joy to be here. Joy, he says it 3 times. It's a joy to join with us in awakening. It's a joy, joy, joy. How many of us think we got to get our house in order before we can go to love and say, please help? He's saying, hey, it's our joy to do this. Maybe if you invite love in, you're actually creating joy. Why not do that now? This is the time that we need the help, isn't it? So if it's Jesus's, and he says we, because it's a whole cadre of Christed beings that do this work, if it's their joy, well, stinking, hey, let's let them in, all of them. I mean, give them, clear out your consciousness and let them all reside in there.
Only reality can be true, and reality is simple. There is but the simplicity of love, and from that ocean there is birth a multitude of forms, a multitude of worlds, a multitude of creations, of which you are one. And like waves arising from the sea, those creations remain linked eternally to their Creator. You are a wave arising from the infinite ocean of the love which is the presence of God. I am a wave that has arisen from the ocean of my Father's holy mind. And though two waves seem to appear separated by what is called time, even by 2,000 of your years, yet in truth, when seen from a much broader perspective, those waves have arisen simultaneously from the ocean's surface. They arise for the very same purpose, to express the simplicity and the innocence and the beauty, the creativity, the truth, and the reality of the ocean itself.
Jeshua is a master at teaching through parables because, of course, ultimate reality is not really communicable. We can't really talk about it. But he uses symbols, and in this case he's going to use the symbol of an ocean, which we can all relate to. We've all had the experience of the ocean. And of course waves as individuated expressions of that ocean. And he's saying he was one of those waves just like you are one of those waves. He has established in this pathway over and over and over and over that there is fundamentally no difference whatsoever between any one of us and him. He's saying we are just like him. We have the same capacity that he has. We are loved just like he is, and we were created the same. He's tried in this pathway and in all his pathways to get past this idea that he was the one Son of God and the rest of us were stepchildren or something. He's saying we're absolutely perfect equals in that regard. So he's going to use this metaphor of the ocean and waves throughout this whole lesson. So he says right here at the beginning, the simplicity of love, and that God has birthed many expressions of being, many forms, many worlds, many multitudes of creation. But just as the wave isn't separate from the ocean, we have absolutely never, ever been separate from our Creator. Ever. The illusion is that we actually think we pulled it off. Joy had a beautiful revelation today that showed her it was absolutely impossible. How ridiculous that we actually could deceive ourselves so deeply to think that we were separate from our Creator. It's absolutely impossible. Just as a wave doesn't jump up out of the ocean and think to go off and create its own ocean. It's just a different expression. And again, he refers to the illusion of time. We think his wave was so long ago and it's kind of disappeared and he's become the whole ocean, but we're still these little waves. We're no different than that. And in this pathway and in the Course in Miracles, the truth of reality is really infinite consciousness that's happening within this unimaginable field of mind, which is God's mind. So each of us, he talks about it in this pathway, that we're the perfect thought of love in form. And our purpose is to express simplicity, innocence, beauty, creativity, truth, and the reality of the ocean or God itself. That's what our purpose is. Isn't that cool? How many of us have been trying to survive or trying to be right or trying to, do all kinds of other things than just doing this? How much fun would that be? I'm just having a great time doing it.
And the waves delight in expressing what seems to be a unique individuality. And yet, they carry the common thread of being made of the same substance, and are truly governed by the same laws of creation. For they know not the moment of their own arising, for only the depth of the ocean unseen can know the moment when it chooses to well up and to create the expression of the wave. The power that is not seen, but is hidden in the depth of the ocean, rises through and forms that wave and sustains that wave throughout the duration of its expression. And it is from the depth of that ocean that it is decided when that wave shall return to the sea. Does that mean it disappears? Only from one perspective. But in reality, the very substance that was made manifest truly has not known birth and death, but only expression.
Birth and death. We all labor under this idea, if we believe we're a body, that we were born and we will die. Kind of a lousy existence because we're always looking over our shoulder when it's going to happen. But the truth of us is just this infinite field of expression. This body that you're experiencing now is one form of your current expression. How many others do you think you've had across eternity? How many more do you think you might have across eternity to play as an eternal being? How many different shapes of waves can the ocean throw up? Little ones, big ones, curly ones, high ones, powerful ones, weak ones, all kinds of different infinite types of expression. And he talks about this when he walked the planet, about he was the Alpha and the Omega, before time was and after time is. Because when you transcend your body-mind consciousness and you find yourself in the infinite field of being, where time isn't even a concept, you won't be able to find a moment when you didn't exist or when you seemed to come into being. It's only when we express within a context of time that we can even seem to have a beginning or an end. But the truth of the matter is, we're just like the ocean. We're as eternal as the ocean is. We cannot not be, period. Go ahead, Cindy.
What then, if you were to consider yourself as a wave arising from the holy mind of God, born of God's infinite desire to expand himself, to express the infinite nature of love and creativity? What if you began to realize that all that you have called yourself is the effect of love, that you do not cause yourself to come into existence? And yet, as you have arisen from that ocean of love, is not the wave made of the same substance as the sea itself? Are you not given infinite and perfect freedom? For just as your Father perceives you, you are given the freedom to perceive yourself, and all of the other waves you might notice, and even the ocean itself, in any way that you choose.
So I know when I was walking my path before I really got started, I alternated between I was the world's biggest asshole to I was the man. And I was free to perceive myself any way, but that never impeded my ability to change my mind and perceive myself in any way that I chose. So within this infinite field of mind, which you're created just like that, all of you would recognize you have a mind. Aren't you free to hold any idea in that mind you ever choose to? From I am a lousy separate body to I and the Father are one. The question is, which of those within your consciousness will you give truth and reality to versus the ones that are just temporary expressions? Because what we think we are, and he'll say this in a future lesson, what we think is what we will experience. So he's again trying to make the point over and over and over that what God is, you are. The attributes of God are eternal, you're eternal. The attributes of God are free, you are free. The attributes of God are creative, you're creative. Look at your stories. How creative has your story been? How often do you like telling your story? Wow, you're a really good storyteller. You created it and you love to share it. So there's creation and there's the desire to extend creation. We've just done that from a appearing separated point of view, which can create a whole lot of suffering as it is within the egoic consciousness. But what if you consider yourself as a wave arising from God's mind or as an individuated expression born of God's infinite desire. So your creation was not a mistake. It wasn't the happenstance of sperm and egg meeting. God purposely decided to create you. Purposely chose, not on a whim, but absolutely chose, I want to create the being that will someday play Steve, or Marion, or Leslie, or Deborah. Purposely chose that. An act of God specific to create you. What if you were to allow yourself to believe that and you were actually created as an infinite mind in which you have dreamt dream upon dream upon dream upon dream, and that's your eternal joy to create experience after experience after experience. This time I think I'll be a president. This time I think I'll be poor. This time I'll be a Hindu. This time I'll be whatever. So all of this is the proof that we all get infinite freedom to create. Is anybody's freedom to think ever taken away? I mean, the world will tell you think one way but not the other, but of course you're free to think whatever you'd want to think. You're free to think yourself and perceive yourself separate and asleep, or you're free to wake up and perceive yourself awake and one with the Creator. And all that you have called yourself is the effect of love, even when you called yourself unworthy and separate and dependent and codependent. But what if love is the infinite expression of creation? Did you ever get it wrong? You were always creating. Even if you say, I'm going to do nothing, well, you're creating an experience of doing nothing. You can't not be creating. And because you're a creator, you can't ever get it wrong. And love gives us infinite freedom to create. Have you been creating from that freedom, or have you been creating from a society's expectations or whatever that said you're not free? And you can't do this, you can't do that, blah, 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 blah. Infinite and perfect freedom. He's going to say this over and over and over and over and over because we truly don't believe we are free. And if the thought rises up and says, wow, I'm really free, well, just be careful to believe it because your behavior in the next moment might suggest something altogether different. So those thoughts can be really tricky.
The goal, then, of a genuine spirituality is to realign the quality of your perception, to mirror, to resonate with, to be in perfect alignment with the perception of your Creator, to see with God's eyes. Beloved friends, in truth, you remain as you are created to be, and in each and every moment, you are literally using the power found in the silent depth of the ocean of God's love that gave rise to your very creation and existence to perceive as you desire.
So we're actually using our divinity to create the experience of sleeping in separateness. We're using our wakefulness to create sleepiness. You have never been separate. You've always, each and every one of us have always been creating from the infinite depth of the ocean, but we use that infinite power to create the experience that we're tiny and separate and we don't have any power. So we're already what we seek. It already is. Are you getting it? Do you recognize it? I mean, when he shared this with me, I was like, bullshit. That's not true at all. But if you start to look within your mind, you are free to look at you can look at a tree and you're creating, oh, that's a beautiful tree, or that tree is sick, ugly. That's like a Charlie Brown Christmas tree looking tree. But those are tiny examples, but if you take those thoughts, they create a whole experience within your realm of your universe, which you create. So we've never been separate. We're already using the power. You don't need to learn how to create. You're already a master at it. The point is, what do you want to create? Do you want to continue to create an experience of separateness, of fear, of guilt, of a past that seems to weigh you down like boulders? You're free to do that if you wish, or you're free to just, as he says in the beginning, now we begin. Start with a clean sheet of paper and move on. None of your past creations burden you at all. They were all expressions of love, unless you want to say they were wrong and bad and I need to fix them. You're welcome just to move on and begin creating anew. Because you're always doing it. Do you want to keep creating the old way? It's up to you.
Therefore, in this hour, we will address the very nature of desire itself, what it means, what it signifies, how it creates effects, the power of desire, the value of desire, the meaning and purpose of desire, and how to begin to bring that energy, which at times feels like a team of 1,000 wild horses all wanting to go in their own directions, to bring the very power of desire under your conscious and deliberate direction, that you might indeed create as the Father created you, with perfect, deliberate, infinite love, and with perfect and infinite and deliberate freedom, with perfect and infinite and deliberate joy, and with perfect, perfect freedom.
He's really trying to make a point, isn't he? Are we going to believe it? Are we going to accept it? Or we can go back to the world's doctrines that we're all born in sin and we're screwed and we're going to hell for eternity. Or we can recognize we've used our perfect and infinite love, our perfect and infinite freedom, our perfect and infinite joy, and our perfect freedom to create what we're experiencing now. If you want to go back, if the mind says, oh, no, I didn't do this, I'm a victim of or you want to go back to axiom number 1 that says, I am sourcing my own experience, and if I don't like it, I'm free to source a new experience. I'm free to source a new perception. I'm free to source a new thought. I'm free to create differently. Because haven't we all felt conflict over desire? And how many times you almost get a pro-con list? You got your desire, and here's all the reasons you should, and shit, here's all the reasons you shouldn't. And your desire gets all balled up in this what-if kind of thing. So we actually don't let a desire come. Or when it does, we immediately, sexuality, that's body. That would absolutely not have anything to do with spirit. That's bad. Shouldn't have sexual thoughts. He's going to talk about that in a minute. So he's inviting us, are we willing to create as God creates? Who's judging God? I mean, is there like a super God over God? So God has perfect freedom, and I'm so glad that he used that freedom to create all of us so that we could create all the experiences that we're having and gave us perfect freedom to do it. I mean, afterwards, there's no judgment. All you get's a high five, and what do you want to do now? I mean, death isn't a bad thing. It's just to go have another experience. So align our perceptions with the will of God. If you start looking at your perceptions, if you want to believe that God's all love and all freedom and all joy and all peace and all, what he's describing here, look at how in your consciousness you have beliefs that do not line up with this at all. Because, perfect love, perfect freedom, so wealth would certainly fit in there. Sex would fit in there. Not sex would fit in there. Poverty would fit in there. Every creation is allowed. And what we're doing across all of eternity is we're just playing with infinite possibilities. What would it be like to experience ourselves as separate? What would it be like to experience myself as a son? What would it be like? What would it be like? What would it be like? Remember when we were kids? Isn't that how you almost created every day? You woke up with no plan, but before you know it, you were creating something. And he asks us to return infinite. Because when you talk to kids don't really know what's not possible. You know what I mean? They're just wide open and playful. He asks us to be that way to re-enter the kingdom, to allow desire, to allow that freedom, and to simply create in joy.
Desire. When I walked upon your planet as a man, I confronted many different opinions about the nature of creation, the nature of mankind, the nature of consciousness, although the world was not around at the time.
The Word.
Word. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Word was not around at the time. what you call consciousness or self-identity. Just as you are now confronted with many schools of thought, so too was I. And while that can seem to lead to great confusion, as though one must choose from the smorgasbord, it actually serves not unlike the sand inside the oyster from which the pearl will come. It causes you to grate inside. You must find your own way to your own truth. For before each and every one of you lies your pathway and a doorway, an eye of the needle, through which only you can fit.
I'm really grateful that in his pathway he talks so much about his experience. Because every time he says, I was just like you. I was a body walking around. I was scared. He talked about it when he was in the desert. He was mad at God, the whole thing. Because he had the full experience as the Son of Man. That's why he called himself that. Because he had the full experience of being human. And how many of us get confused with all the stuff? Well, there's Buddhism, there's Zen, there's so many colors at the paint store. You know, and almost we can rest in the frustration that there's so much confusion, or the world indoctrinated us, blah, 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 blah. But you see how he immediately turns that into a benefit. Because you know what? Look at all the choices I have. Let's see, Buddhism, or I might need to sit in meditation, and there's nothing wrong with meditation, but that's kind of their thing. I might have to sit in meditation for 6 hours a day. I don't know. I'm not sure I want to do that. Well, let's see, Christianity, I have to say I was a born sinner. I'm not so sure I want to do that either. So you get to work through and find your truth. And this is what the world most wants us not to do. The world rewards us for staying within the lines and walking in a straight line and abiding with what everyone else teaches. Just look at education. Every teacher is saying, please believe what I believe. Here, and if you believe it really well, I'll give you an A+ if you adopt my beliefs. Rather than thinking for yourself and choosing for yourself. And he's talked about it in one of the other channelings that he shares about being divinely selfish. Turning and going the opposite direction of the world and making your own choices. And in his case, he got completely outside of the context of the world, woke up, experienced enlightenment, and recognized, wow, that world thing is crazy. It's nuts. I mean, just look at it. Look at the bandwagon effect. How many of you have jumped on a bandwagon because your friends were on it? Did you know anything about it? You were just all excited to jump on. Well, if they believe it, I should believe it. Frankly, you should question every belief in your consciousness. If it was not sourced within your own direct experience, throw it out. Absolutely throw it out. If you can't validate it with your own experiential knowing, throw it out. And I'd even suggest you throw out the ones you think you can validate. And actually get your slate clean so that you can find your way to the eye of the needle. And you can't follow anyone else's. I mean, sometimes people come to sit with me and they're like, tell me exactly what you were thinking when it happened. Like if they thought the exact same series of things, it would magically happen, like there's just one way. I've had people who had revelations listening to one of the channelings and they go back to attempt to recreate it and they can't even remember when it happened. Because everybody, you're creating your own experience. You're actually creating your own pathway back through the eye of the needle. So do it your way. Live no one's truth but yours. And if you look within your relationships, you'll see how, wait a minute, we're supposed to share a truth. This is supposed to be our joint truth. And we're supposed to get to the eye of the needle together so we can hold hands and go through together. It'll be so nice. Woo! That's not the way it works. You got to get there on your own. If you have a partner or someone who's highly conscious, and Jesus will talk about it later in this lesson, about undressing in front of them, and I don't mean physically, although you're welcome to do that if you'd like, about outing your beliefs and actually challenging them and being able to bring them up in a safe environment and say, can you believe I actually believe this? You know, and not have it be something that's affronting.
Therefore, in some respects, you are seemingly alone. You must make the decision to desire, above all things, awakening into perfect remembrance of your union with God, just as a wave might finally decide that it has been birthed, not to be fearful of being a wave, but to truly claim its individuation, to claim its uniqueness, and to live that fully. And in that fullness, to decide to discover a way to be aware of its infinite union with the ocean itself, to somehow break free of the myopic self-identification as one little piece of wave that arises in a place or a field of time, lasts but for a second and then disappears. To find a way to transcend that limitation, to become re-identified with a consciousness, a living awareness, that you are one with the depth of the sea, that you can operate not from the superficial level of awareness that might be like the foam at the tip of the wave, what you call your conscious or egoic mind, but that you become informed in all that you speak, in all that you do, in all that you create, and all that you perceive, by that which rests in the very infinite depth of the ocean itself.
You must make a decision to desire above all things awakening into the perfect remembrance of your union with God. And it wasn't until I did that and went all in and put that above my relationship with Cindy, put that above my identity as a father, put that above my desire to have love and recognition and win the lottery and all that other stuff, did my path not truly start and really take off. So what he's really saying is have no idols before God, before your own self-identity as I am. Everything that you stick after I am is really an idol. You're saying, I'd rather be that. I'd rather be that I am unworthy than just the infinite potential of I am. I am sick, I am a body, I am whatever, whatever, whatever. Because if you're I am struggling to wake up, well, just get rid of the struggling to wake up and rest in the I am. It's right there. It always has been and it always will be. So look, if you're not willing to go all in, that's okay. Nobody says you have to. He's saying if you want to wake up, you got to go all in. But he didn't say you have to. I had a great time not being awake. I recognize that now. Back then I thought it sucked. And to not be fearful of being a wave, but to truly claim its individuation, to claim its uniqueness, and to live that fully. Because if you're on a path, I'm sure the ego has suggested to you that you just need to be blank. I'm not this body. I don't think. All kinds of stuffs to try and fake absolute unique expression of infinite creation. So all of us right now are already expressing infinite expressions of God. What's wrong with that? Oh, it's the ego that says, no, I'm supposed to be just like everyone else. Well, in truth, you are, but it's okay that your suit doesn't look like everybody else's. But just look at that, because the ego will try and tell you you're just supposed to be this blank nothingness. And that's not it. I would hate that God would be blank nothingness. You often hear that sometimes in Zen and Buddhism, that it's the emptiness. Well, it is the emptiness, but then the emptiness is full of everything. Everything is included in that emptiness. Everything. So oneness isn't sameness, it's allness. It's all expressions. All expressions. As he says, above all things. Somehow break free of the myopic self-identification as just this body. And many people go, oh, well, I know I'm not the body. Well, then live like you're not the body. Why live in fear if you know you're not? And if your mind tells you you know that, but you're still living in fear, then you don't really know it. You have a concept about it, which is okay, but seek the experience of knowing so that you can really be at peace. Re-identified with consciousness, or the function of mind, a living awareness that is one with the depth of the sea. So sleepiness was just putting down our truth and mistakenly being identified as our body minds. Just like you leave home and you go on a vacation and you seem to act in ways that you don't when you're at home. I mean, you recognize it's just a matter of having a different experience. So re-identification is what it's all about. If you're on a self-improvement spiritual path, that's a trick. This is about self-realization. The separated ego will never wake up. It'll try really hard and it'll tell you incessantly, I'm getting close, I'm getting close. But it won't wake up. It's just about shifting your identity to the ocean instead of, oh, I'm this little wave.
Imagine then drawing upon a well within you that seems to have no bottom and sides, through which something is pouring forth from places unseen, in which your literal conscious attention, your conscious awareness, seems to be colored with radiant light that literally leaves you feeling that you are not the body mind or the personal history with which you have identified before, but that these things are only temporal or temporary and very impersonal effects of a level of desire within your soul, which is one and the same as the love of God expressing itself for no other reason than that the love must be extended.
How many of you have already experienced within your own mind, doesn't it seem to be endless? Does it ever stop? It comes and it comes and it comes and it comes and it comes. Do you ever think, God, my mind's just going to run out? No. The point is what thoughts you actually want to allow into your consciousness, but you're already drawing from a well that seems to have no sides, seems to have no depth. But your choice was to draw from that well of infinite possibilities. I'm separate. I'm this body mind. What if you drew from that infinite well the truth? I and my Father are one. And I don't just mean about cheesy mantras. Those don't really work. But to draw something else from that mind, because from that well, can any of you recognize, is your mind not able to hold any thought? Is it limited in any way? No, that's the infinite part of you, and you're already experiencing it. But within it, within that infinite field, you hold this idea, ooh, I'm Marion, and I'm not good enough. So you took this infinite possible expression, and by choice, desire, to create Marion, who wasn't good enough. And you did it well. Congratulations. Congratulations. Your Father is very well pleased. That's what we've all done, and it's okay. But we're free to draw from that infinite well a new elixir. He'll talk about it in a little bit, a new truth. Whew. Again, love must be extended. You're already creating. You can't not create. Do you see how love just has to be created? It has to be constantly expressing in some method of creation. Eternally.
Imagine transcending your fear of your own survival, because as you look upon your body mind, you are no longer identified as that body mind. That those things that have become tools to be utilized by the love which rests in the mind of God. That you live, yet no longer you, but Christ dwells in you. This is a very real experience to be lived. It is not just a philosophy. It is not just a concept, and it can never be a dogma. There is a mystical translation that occurs in the depth of the soul, which in truth is merely a shifting of where you perceive your sense and source of identity. And the energy required to take you from myopic self-contraction, in which you have become identified with the little drops of foam out on the tip of the wave, tossed to and fro by a power that seems to be outside of you, to a sense of identity with the silent depth of the ocean that is everywhere present and seems to know no beginning or no end, the very energy that will carry you from the tip of the wave to the depth of the ocean is the energy of desire.
So we all got into this realm, into this experience, because we had the desire. to experience ourselves as an individual being, seemingly separate and apart from all others, and able to die. I mean, you recognize from our infinite thing, this was a really cool idea because it was the way to experience what we could never experience in truth. The only way we could do it would be to dream an experience of it. But what if you lived your life without the fear of survival? What if you knew your eternalness knew it? Not in concept, not in philosophy, not in theory, but through direct knowing. Would you be doing what you're doing now? Would you be going to a job that you really don't like? Would you be with the partner you are that's in some codependent thing? I mean, just wonder. He's asking you to imagine. What would it be like to know you had absolute freedom? Absolute freedom. It feels good, doesn't it? Freedom feels good. Everybody wants freedom. Why do you want a job with more money? Because you think it'll give you more freedom. But it's not a concept. You can play with concepts in your mind, but it's really about the direct experience. And it is something that happens at the depth of your being. And when the identity switches, you'll know. There's no faking it. If the mind says, I think, well, then that's not it. It's a knowing that doesn't require thought. And he mentions that, the silent depth of the ocean. And if you recognize silence, like mind, is an infinite field of potential. Can't anything arise out of the silence? Anything can arise out of the silence. Any thought, any sound, any color, any universe, anything. When you become identified as pure, limitless consciousness, pure awareness, rather than the thoughts you hold in the awareness or the images you see within the awareness. The Buddhists talk about you're the sky, you're not the clouds in the sky. Is the sky ever damaged by a hurricane moving through it? No. Next day it's just as blue as can be, just chilling. But it allows all kinds of stuff to happen within it. Just like God's holy mind allows all these dreams to arise within it, all these different expressions of being.
For I say unto you, that if the Father had not desired to extend love, you would never have come into existence. Your very sense of awareness of self is the result, the effect of love. The very same love that has birthed the sun and the moon and all the stars and every dimension upon dimension upon dimension of creation. That very love that desired for that love to be extended is the very source from which you have been birthed. As you know yourself to be then, you are the effect of God's desire to extend love. Therefore, when next someone asks you, "Oh, who are you?" please do not give them a name. Do not say, "Well, I was born in a certain time in a certain part of the planet." Don't tell them that you are a Democrat or a Republican or a communist or an atheist or a Catholic. Tell them the truth. Who am I? I am the expression of love in form. I have never been born and I will never taste death. I am infinite and eternal. I shine forth as a sunbeam to the sun. I am the effect of God's love, and I stand before you to love you. Now that will raise some eyebrows. It will also transform your world, for it is time to stop seeking Christ outside and start choosing to take responsibility for being Christ incarnate. Desire is everything.
Yes, desire is everything. I've used this example of the mirror before. So you're looking in the mirror, you're waiting to wake up. Well, when the mirror smiles, I'll know I'm awake. You recognize you're playing the game of effect when you're at cause. When you smile, the truth is reflected back to you immediately, without delay. For those of us who are playing with awakening, going, "Well, I'm waiting. I mean, you're going to look in the mirror a long time before it's going to smile first. So he's asking you, will you consider recognizing the truth in your own consciousness? Because when you say, oh, I'm a Democrat and I'm a Republican, and if you're inclined to say one of those, you'll go on for an hour telling about yourself. Telling deception after self-deception after self-deception after self-deception after self-deception. And you wonder why your experience is not of truth. So you have to be willing to stand in the truth within your own being before the truth starts to reflect back to you, because you're cause of your experience, not effect. So all of you who are waiting to wake up, you're going to wait a really long time. When you decide to wake up and you go all in and you're willing to recognize and stand in this truth, it's going to reflect back to you. So you are at cause of your awakening. It can happen whenever you choose. It's not like God's out there going, Mo, not today. Stephen, no. Sandra, bing! Because we believe in the dream that we put cause outside of ourselves, and it's not. And Marion had been playing that, I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting. Oh, I know. But she didn't know any better. But when I could actually hold it up and say, do you see what you're doing? It didn't take much time at all, did it? So look at how you describe yourself. Look at your self-identity. You recognize you're you and you're using your infinite power to create that separated, limited experience, which you're free to do, and it's okay to do it. Don't be mad about ego. It was a game we were playing. But do you still want to create that way? And I'll tell you, the first time you do this, and especially the first time you tell another being this, it will feel wonky as can be. Because you've been used to frowning in the mirror, and when you see a smile in the mirror, you'll say, oh, that's not me. I'm a frown. I'm not a smile. So it will feel a little wonky at first. Because, of course, it's like you've had this comfortable pair of ego shoes on for a long time. Well, now you get this new sporty Christ shoes, Christ sandals maybe, I don't know. They feel a little weird on your feet to begin with. You got to kind of break them in. So be willing within your own consciousness to look at your thoughts. And what if you replace I am sick, or I am tired, or I am poor, with something closer to the truth like this? You will hasten the truth coming into your experience when you're willing to create from the truth. Otherwise, you're using the truth to create your experience of illusion, which is okay. But just know you have the power to turn it around if you wish.
What is wonky, John?
Inauthentic.
Okay.
So Mark asked, what is wonky? Inauthentic, fake, faux, skewed. Anyone else? Lying, like you're lying to yourself. If you're really identified with this and the whole story of it, when you start saying, well, I'm really this eternal being, it's not going to feel authentic because you've deceived yourself so thoroughly into your story. And if you look close, you'll know you really love your story. That's the fear, that we don't want to let go of our story. We don't want to let go of our guilt and our shame and our past. It's juicy. We like blaming someone else. We hold on to it like crazy, even though it hurts. I mean, all God's trying to do is say, hey, you're eternal. When you want to wake up, remember you're everything. He's trying to give us everything. We're like, no, I'll keep I am a Republican. And by the way, the last election was bullshit. And I don't know about all those chemtrails and all that kind of stuff. All of that is just you're using your infinite power to create the separateness. And if you like it, keep doing it. But if you want to wake up and you want to be at peace, you're free to do that when you choose. Okay.
Take just a moment, right now. Let the body relax and imagine that you could move back from being the actor in the play of your life to being the director and the producer. And you're sitting in your laboratory, your studio, and you're editing the story of your life. And you're looking at all your little clips of film From the time you were birthed, the time you went to kindergarten, the time you first fell in love, the time you first decided to go to a movie, the time you went off to college, the time you took a job, or this job, or that job, or you moved to another physical location. Now, look closely and see if it is not true that for every action you have ever done, for every decision you have ever made, after trying to analyze it, is there not underneath it the energy of desire? For in truth, you do not lift the body from your couch to go to the refrigerator without the desire to eat. Something calls you into the field of action, an expression of action. It is desire. No one enters into an intimate relationship without the energy of desire. For who two have ever looked upon one another and said, I don't feel any desire whatsoever, but let's get married, have children, raise a family.
Honey, I didn't have any desire for our gig.
Could have fooled me.
But, thank you, honey. But I love this. Imagine that you're not the actor of your story, that you're actually the one, the Wizard of Oz, you're one behind the curtain pulling all the strings. And you don't, but you think you're somehow not at cause of all that. But the point he's making, if you're the director and the producer, you can rewrite the script anytime you choose. In the Course in Miracles, he calls it the happy dream. If you want to still dream, well, dream happy, dream abundant, dream healthy, dream fun. Or you can wake up from the whole thing. But desire is what's all about. We wouldn't be experiencing the what if of separation had we not desired it. So if you've been kicking yourself for it and this is all bad and all wrong, it was all birthed out of desire. If you want a new desire to wake up from it, well, then you're free to do so. Why not? And those of us who try to think we're drawn to the refrigerator without desire, I used to be like that. I used to blame it on the refrigerator. It's like calling my name. So I had a desire that the refrigerator call my name so I wouldn't be responsible for getting up and going and having a whole thing of ice cream. But you recognize, even at that, we took the desire to say, I don't want to be responsible. I want it to be Marion's fault. Or I want it to be Cindy's fault. There was desire to not be responsible. What would it be like to be the effect of creation rather than the cause of creation? And how cool is that we could experience that whole charade? Fun stuff. So those of you who have been in those marriages and relationships, and now you say, I don't know what I was thinking back then. Well, it was desire. It was desire, and you're never not being moved by desire. The fact that you're in this room, the fact that you're having some spiritual context, there's desire within your being to awaken. Maybe you're not all in on it yet, but you might consider going all in.
Desire. Desire is that energy which brings forth all waves of creation out of the depth of the ocean itself. And yet, who among you has not felt conflicted about desire? Who among you has not been taught that desire is evil? Who among you has not been taught not to desire to be great? Who among you has not been taught that the desire for material comfort is some sort of a blot upon the spiritual path? Look well within your soul and see if this is not true. Have you not feared at times the welling up of desire within you? For well as I look upon your plane, there are many who become paralyzed with fear just because they desire to have a bowl of ice cream. So afraid are they that if they give in to that desire, something in the ice cream will cause their body to bloat and their brain to cease its functioning.
I love that he's so light about this. I mean, we've really made this really heavy about desire. The desire to be wealthy, desire to have a partner. Ooh, I desire to kiss that person. No, no, don't do that. Don't follow through on that desire. That's bad. Something bad will happen. The only thing that will happen is love will be extended. There'll be a creation. There'll be an experience. Big deal. We're doing it all the time. We're doing creation and desire and extension all the time. So you recognize if desire is the energy of creation, incarnating into the dream of separation, we had to put the camouflage on desire and make it bad. That was part of the whole self-deception that we all agreed on. Because if we hadn't, we all would have desired great things for all of us. You recognize? And we would have known, oh, the desire of my brother is good. It's not bad. So that was part of our pull the wool over our eyes, was to take unlimited desire, unlimited freedom to experience desire and make it bad. And then we even took Yeshua's teachings, which these were his original teachings, and we had to put them in a book that says, money is the root of all evil. And we had to make desire bad. Sex is bad. You're free to see that desire is not bad. And you're never not desiring. Are you willing to desire really the big thing, to be the ocean itself, rather than trying to sport up your wave and go, whoa, look, I'm a really cool wave. Look at my new car my wave's got. You know, you're welcome to do that. But you know that never really lasts. That kind of shine goes off pretty quick.
And for those of you in intimate relationships, what you call marriage, a commitment of some kind, there seem to be many levels of commitment in your world, each with its own definition. How many of you have not carried the belief taught to you by the world that if you feel an energy of desire welling up within yourself when you look upon someone who is not your partner, that somehow you have sinned against God? How many of you then do not know the experience of trying to rein in the 10,000 horses, so sure that if you give in to feeling desire that everything will run amok? And your attempt to keep your life structured and rigid and predictable would collapse. What you call all hell breaking loose.
I have teenage daughters, so I think I understand this about many levels of commitment. I mean, if they truly, on Facebook, instead of just having an in relationship, if they actually had the type, I can't imagine how many types of relationship would be listed. And they all seem to have some threshold. I mean, when I was a kid, it was just, will you go with me, yes or no, check one. Now it's like, well, will you be my friend? Will you be my part? You know, I don't know. It just goes on and on and on. How many of us have had that in a marriage and saw someone else that looked attractive? And then felt guilty about it. And then felt bad about it. I don't know that I ever went so far as to think I'd sinned against God, but I probably did. Because we think that's such a bad thing. Now, he didn't say act on it, but of course you're free to do that too. But we do fear this. We fear that if we actually give in to the desire of our being, to the desire of our soul moving up within us to awaken, to abandon the world, to go all in, that all hell will break loose. I mean, I can tell you the nightmares my ego told me about that before I woke up. Oh my gosh, you're going to hurt your family. You're going to be like a vegetable, because if you don't think, you won't be able to do anything. And I'm going to lose all these relationships. I'm going to lose all my friends, blah, 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 blah. It'll tell you story after story after story after story. You're welcome to believe those stories, which are all fear-based. If you look at them, the ego's always saying there's a fear of loss if you keep going. Well, the only thing the ego fears is the loss of itself. So it tries to project it out on something else. So what if all hell broke loose in your being, and you actually let the full desire to awaken arise within your being? Would that be such a bad thing? Your life will change. I can assure you I didn't sit in the corner of this living room before this happened and talk to my family like this. Who knows what it might be for you, how desire will move through you to express.
And yet I say unto you, Would you exist if God had feared the desire to create and extend love by forming you, at the same time giving you the infinite freedom of choice? Without desire, look around. Not only would you see nothing, there would be nothing to do the seeing. Everything is the effect of desire. Come then to see that desire is not evil. It is not to be feared. It is to be mastered. Mastery is not control, for control, the need to control, is an effect of the energy of fear and not of love. Mastery of desire comes when you recognize that you are safe to feel whatever wave of desire might come up through your consciousness, because you decide whether or not you will act on it. You will bring it into the field of manifestation. The power of choice is the one power that can never be taken from you. You already have perfect mastery of it, because nothing you ever experience comes to you without your decision to allow it into the field of manifestation. Come then to feel that desire is something welling up from the depth beyond yourself that can be looked at with perfect innocence and with the wonder of a child, and that every act of turning to allow and welcome desire is not something that will sidetrack you from the path of awakening, but will indeed take you vertically, if you will, into the heart of God.
So God clearly didn't feel the desire to extend himself and create us. I'm grateful for that. Isn't that rock? So why should we be fearful of it? He doesn't say we have to act on every one of those desires, but can we allow them to freely arise in my being? What would it be like to walk the world as Christ? What would it be like to be awake? What would it be like to have the power to create from choice, not from happenstance? And can any of you ever lose the power of choice? I mean, you can make shitty choices 1,000,000 times and you can make a divine one in the next choice. No matter what happens to you, whether you're physically disabled, you still have choice about what you're going to experience, what you're going to think, how you're going to feel. In the Course in Miracles, at the beginning, Jesus said, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of God. So your ability to choose can never be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. You can never lose your ability to choose. Therein lies the peace of God, because you can always choose peace. You can always create whatever you desire. The kingdom of heaven is that infinite ability to choose within your own consciousness. And we used it to create an experience very hellish, separate death, bad stuff, blah, 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 blah. But you're clearly welcome to use the power of your choice and fully take back the power of your choice and create consciously. And it's not about control. We've all thought we had to control things and not let things arise in our consciousness. Rather, it's about opening to that and letting that come. Maybe there's a desire in there that would completely transform your whole experience, but because you fear desire, you don't actually allow it in. So allow them in. Watch them. Imagine, well, what would that desire be like? What might it be like to have a sex change? I don't know, whatever seems to arise in your consciousness, and look on them with wonder. Isn't that what kids have so much fun doing? Playing with imagination upon imagination upon imagination upon imagination. And we've, not totally, but we've largely suppressed that because we have to be so serious. Because all this is real and it's got some dire consequences. Because nothing comes into your experience unless you decide that it be so. So you can have the thought arise, well, what would it be like to be a travel agent or a flight attendant or a pilot? Well, none of those will come into the field of expression until you say, wow, I think it'd be fun to be a pilot. Let me go try that. So allow desire to arise. That's just really God saying, remember in the Course he's got that lesson, God's will for you is perfect happiness? Well, here, how about this one? Would that make you happy? I'll throw this thought in there. How about that? How about that? How about that? So it's about allowing your being to be open and expansive and letting it come. And look on it with that perfect innocence. And rather than fearing it, opening to it, he's saying, will accelerate your path to awakening. Wow! That's kind of exciting. We don't have to actually suppress the experience to be holy. It's about allowing the full experience of it. Doesn't mean you have to go experience every thought you have. Doesn't mean you have to believe every desire that arises. But the desire arising in itself isn't bad. Let it come.
For if you are to ever create as God creates, you will need to heal your conflicted perceptions about desire. You will need to transcend that energy of fear. There are many who call upon me and pray. There is not an hour in your time frame in which there is not many upon your plane, somewhere on your planet, that are praying to me, that want their hearts to be filled with Christ. And yet at the very same time, they are scared to death of an energy that wants to move because they have been taught to fear, to suppress desire. Desire is like the liquid of life that moves through the stem of the rose and allows the petals to radiate with glorious color. And when you block the flow of desire, the petals cannot be nourished. Death begins to occur. Death of the heart, death of the soul, lifelessness. If you were to walk down one of your city streets and to truly look into the eyes of everyone you see, and everyone that hears these words has had this experience, would you not recognize that death seems to have already made a home in the minds of many that are living? Death of dreams, death of hope, death of worthiness, death of playfulness, death of true power, death of union with their source and creator.
So let's take that last line out and replace death of with life of dreams, life of hope, life of worthiness, life of playfulness, life of true power, life of union with your source and creator. Which of those two sounds good to you? I don't know about you, but I think we've worn out the death one. I know I did. Worn it completely out. I went to visit a friend, Lucia, in Vancouver one time. And this experience of walking down the city streets was just like this. It's not quite that much in Asheville. There's a lot of aliveness in Asheville. Did he just say, for if you are ever to create as God creates? I mean, what's he inferring there? You can, that's right. And let's go back to what he said earlier. We actually are doing it now. We're using that godlike creation to create the experience of not godlikeness. That's the whole ironic thing. That's the cosmic joke. When you see that in your consciousness, you'll go, holy, holy cow. So what an invitation to heal our conflicted perceptions about desire. And who would not like to transcend the energy of fear? I know everybody will throw your hand up, but you better look, because there's a deep addiction to fear in our beings. It runs deeper than you'll ever imagine. I know mine did. When I saw the depths of it, I was shocked. Absolutely shocked. Whew. Everybody calls to Jesus to pray, and he's like, great. They're like, Jesus, please smile in the mirror for me. Please smile in the mirror for me. He's trying to get the desire to move for you to recognize, oh my gosh, I am divine, and take and acknowledge it. but we're fearful to let that truth actually move through our being. We're fearful of letting go of our little identity attached to our past. Sure, our story, or our versions of stories. I don't know about you, but I was like a software upgrade. Every couple of years I had a new version of my story. Did you ever notice that? And the new version seems to rewrite the past of your previous version. And it's all just kind of made up, created conjecture. And I don't know, I experienced death of the heart, death of the soul, and lifelessness. How many of us have considered suicide? Thinking that would be the way out. That somehow peace would come later. We would be free of all the confines. Well, what if we just chose now to be free of them? What if we let the desire of truth move through us and you would recognize and experience the truth that'll set you free? And then you won't fear death. You won't have fear of the body being damaged or whatever, and you can live in this world but not be of it. That's cool. Then you get to have the whole play of the game without the fear of the consequences.
Healing requires the willingness to feel desire, to see it as good, to see it as holy. Does that not mean that if you feel a desire that it might not become twisted by the egoic patterns of your mind? Of course not. There's always that possibility that desire will be twisted to meet the needs of your egoic mind within you. But rest assured, if it does, who's done it? You. Always within you, you know that desire is good, but you suppressed it. Always, when desire comes forth, those times when you've let it become twisted into serving the goals of the ego, rest assured, you knew perfectly well what you were doing, and you were the decision maker. You have learned, therefore, to fear desire, because that fear is the effect of fearing yourself. And that is what cripples you. That is what cuts off the creative flow. That is what leads to everything your world knows as the multitude of psychological diseases, an unwillingness to trust oneself, an unwillingness to love oneself, the belief that the desires that move through your beingness are something evil and dark. If only you could stamp them out of your being, you could remain in control, and everybody would like you, because you'd conform into the smallness and the littleness that is worshipped in human consciousness.
We bow down to this smallness and littleness all the time. How many of you have sat around and told stories about your pain? Or about your operations? Or about your bankruptcies? We hold them out there like trophies. And then everybody else has to one-up and say, look, I got a bigger loser trophy than you do. We do that kind of stuff all the time. Oh, you were sick once? Well, I had double, triple pneumonia, and I had gangrene, and I had to walk to school in the snow. I mean, just look, and within your consciousness, there's always this desire. Oh, that's your story. Well, wow, look at what craziness I created. We do that kind of stuff all the time. But we don't recognize that we're actually bowing down to the smallness of it. And when you decide to wake up, or you wake up and you recognize that's ridiculous, I don't want to play that game. And if you've had a group of people that you hang out with who are still desiring to play that, it won't fit anymore. But the ego will tell you, oh my God, I'll lose all my friends. Well, when you don't want to play small anymore, when you don't want to play fear and pain anymore, you won't care it'll just kind of drop away, no big deal. And you'll find a new group of friends who are willing to step into their truth and into their Christness and say, well, we can honor each other as we embody Christ. We can help and support each other rather than, oh, woe is me. And this fear of twisting these desires around, he's going, well, if you fear it, you're creating the fear of it. You're even the cause of the fear of yourself. We all wanted to say the ego was like some bad entity out there, like the devil who was making us do all this kind of stuff. You're creating that experience of self-fear within your own consciousness. Nobody's doing it to you, and you're welcome to do it differently. So when I got on the path and I started hearing Jeshua in my mind, and I wanted Jeshua to take away everything, he said, I can't. You made it. We're perfect equals. I have no power over you. I can't take any of your stuff away because you created it, you value it, it's yours. When you're done with it and you want to throw it out of your consciousness, it'll go. I'm just here to teach you how to do that, to remind you who you are. So we're always creating. What will you choose to create? And part of this, we had to push our creative impulse into our unconscious so that it seems like choices that we're making we're not consciously aware of. Someone does something to you and you react with anger. You don't recognize the choice point where you decided, yeah, I'm going to be angry. And we think it didn't happen. But of course, if you're experiencing anger, you had to choose it. So this is about completely uncovering the unconscious, making it conscious, and choosing consciously rather than being habituated by patterns. And Leslie and I had a beautiful exchange on the porch this afternoon, where she just spoke one, didn't even realize what it inferred because we're just so used to it. We just so think that's right. And I said, do you recognize what you just said? And she said, oh my gosh. So anyway. So it's this self-fear that cripples us that leads to all these psychological disorders. It's not got nothing to do with mercury. It's got nothing to do with nothing else. It's got to do with our fear within our consciousness. We're at cause. It's not something outside of us unless we want to create this experience that it's something out there but you created that experience. You can completely turn that around and heal that on your own. So there's the first quarter, I think, of lesson number 4. So next week, we will continue following the thread of desire. Anyone have questions or comments tonight? Hold on, let him bring the mic over. You don't want to be on camera? We can just do voiceover if you want. You look fabulous, by the way.
I don't care. I was teasing about that kind of sort of. So I'm sitting here and I'm having a question kind of about why do I not know what I want? And then I think that's not true because I do know what I want, but I realize that what I do is I make what I want really small.
Well, each and every one of you right now, whatever your experience is, you'll say you don't want it, but you're experiencing your highest desire right now. Every day you're getting exactly what it is you really want. And we stay in this side, oh, I don't want to be so angry or so sick or so poor or whatever. So in any moment, we're always getting what it is we desire most. We have to start with the acceptance that, oh my gosh, I'm creating this experience, and then we can open up. But we had to create fear around that, or of course we would have always been making a higher choice. It's really distrust of ourselves because we look at what we did with our desire and we all go, that sucks. But if you recognize that that was the point of the expression of separateness, how well did I do separateness? Wow, now wait a minute, my desire pointed in that direction has worked out perfectly. And everybody else helped me out with this. So it's a matter of repurposing desire. But we don't know what we truly want because underneath we don't know who we really are.
Yeah, because that's what I do. It's kind of like, okay, so I'm not happy with this. Well, what do I want? God, and if I could have anything, like what is it?
I know, and then the mind's like blank.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, well, I'd like to be happy. Well, so what does that mean?
Well, it's a choice. We've said, I'll be happy when X, Y, Z happens, rather than, oh my gosh, I have a choice in this moment to be happy. From my happiness, what might I like to go do? You see what I mean? It's a whole different ball of wax.
I didn't even hear that. We say it one more time.
I'll
I'm
try and
shaking my
remember.
head going, uh-huh. That was what,
Oh, happiness.
yes.
We think we're not happy. We've created the experience, I'm not happy. And then we even create the experience, I'll be happy when I get a new partner, or the stinky one I have leaves, or I get a new job, or I get a new car, or I get liposuction, or whatever.
Right.
So we put our happiness on the condition of something outside of us. And if you haven't noticed, aren't many of those things seemingly way out of your reach? So that you'll keep playing the game of, but if you turn that around and recognize happiness is a choice, I can be happy right here, right now, rather than seeking happiness through things, what would I like to take the happiness that I am and do? And extend love, extend creation from a place of happiness and fullness, wholeness, rather than from this place of emptiness. But we just distrust. But he's going to give an exercise later in this lesson, and I've been working with somebody, and they did it the first time, and the ego jumped all over it, condemned it, bada, 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 and they were like, forget it. But he says do it 7 times, because he knows that kind of resistance is going to come up. So when I did this, I was shocked at some of the stuff that came up. I mean, I was appalled at some of it, but I was blown away by some of it, because it was just this mishmash of all these suppressed negative ego things, and then this mishmash of this beautiful, huge, Christed kind of Savior of the world kind of stuff. I was like, whoa. So it's kind of like brainstorming. You guys ever do that in business or something? You know, it's like really open your mind. And someone would say an idea and you'd go, that's stupid. I mean, we judged it all the time. So it's really an exercise about truly letting it come without judgment. And you're doing it privately by yourself. You can at least be open enough to write down, I want to murder somebody or whatever, without condemning yourself. Just let it all come so that we take the lid off of desire.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Robin.
Hi, my name's Cortina. My question is, how do you identify the difference and the transformation from control to mastery?
Well, if you're in your being, you feel this, that's a desire to control. If you feel open, that's a desire to actually be open, to allow. If it has to go the way you want it, that's control. If I'd like to have this experience and I'm open to the universe arranging it however it might want, maybe it's not with this person, it's with another person, that's opening. So one of the things in the Course in Miracles he talks about is the difference between form and content. So form might be, I want to have XYZ in my bank account. The content underneath that is, I really want to be free to do what I want to do when I want to do it. So one is open to the specifics. The other one is the specifics equal success. So that's a good way to judge. Am I saying it has to look a certain way or I won't be happy? Or what I really want is peace, and I don't care how it comes. I want a relationship that's joyful. I don't care if it's the same sex or not. Or, I mean, how open are you really willing to be? Is peace or happiness more important to you, or is it the way you want happiness to show up? That's the difference. So you can look within your consciousness where you want to put it in a box and say it's got to look this way.
So would you say mastery is about having the freedom to be open to whatever comes?
You bet. It's about not suppressing desire. Because really, he talked about mastery of desire as openness and then choice. How big do you want your potential list of choices to be? That's really being open. Because in our consciousness, it's usually A or B. That's usually as far as we go. What if you opened and let 50 things show up on your potential desire list? You got a greater choice now. You see what I mean? Because the universe is infinite. Infinite possibilities. how open are you willing to let that list be? I mean, if you really let it go, it'll go. But wouldn't you rather be able to pick from 50 as 2? But the thing is, we have to open to that Christ mind, because oftentimes we're trying to create from our little experience of our past. So we can only create things based on our smallness. You recognize what I'm saying? So when I truly opened my mind and Jeshua started dropping these huge things in that I never would have thought of. I mean, I knew they were coming from Spirit because I had no context to put around it. So it's really about, wow, do I want to decide what I want from my tiny little separated egoic consciousness? Or do I want to open and let the whole ocean inform my possible list? Let the ocean's desires arise up, not my little wave ones. So I hope that helps some.
Thank you.
You're welcome. In the back, Gordon.
If I am equal to Jeshua, how does he conceive of me praying to him?
He actually finds it kind of funny. You know, when I would do that, Jeshua would do this. He'd say, you've got the power to do that. Do you want me to remind you? Do you want me to show you? But you have that power. I'll support you in whatever choice you make. But as he said in there, we pray and we pray and we pray, and he's trying to help the desire for bigness, for Christ, for love, for our infiniteness, the reminder to arise within us. And we're like, no, no, no. All I really want is just the mailbox to not lean over. I mean, we pray for all kinds of crazy things. Look at some of the things you pray about and recognize, you know, you're asking the infinite, and you're saying, I would just really like one pair of shoes, you know. So it's comical from that point of view. You know, these beings who have awoken fully to our infiniteness, I mean, this is kind of the realm of where we master limitation. And of course, if you're an infinite being, that's kind of a nice, you know, Boy Scout badge to put on your divine outfit or whatever. But he'll help you. But what he's trying to help you recognize is that you're perfect equals and you have the full power that he has. He doesn't really deploy his power over us, because then that would infer that we're not equals. He will love and support you in you coming into your Christ consciousness. And that's all he wants to do, is give you your limitlessness back. But he can't create that if he's creating a perception of difference. Because then he's saying we're not equals. God didn't create equality. He created me up here, and he created you down here. Do you know how much power it takes to create this difference of perception? Do you know how much power we use to create our idea that we're separate and we're not like him? That's friggin' mastery right there. And we're already doing it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? So who's ready to open to desire? Well, great, because I'm desiring a love offering. Because I have a desire to pay the bills and help this family live. I do. I'm going to tell you, my desire is that the house stays and it's out and all that kind of good stuff. But anyway, all teasing aside, this is all that this family does, is extend love in this way. Simply be a mirror to help remind you of who you truly are, help you recognize the power of your choice, and that waking up doesn't have to take long, it doesn't have to be serious, and you can get on about it. But anyway, if you'd like to make a love offering, and please make it guilt-free, there's a basket on the other side of the fireplace. If you're watching online, you can go to onewhowakes.org. In the upper right-hand corner is a give button. If you click that, you can make a PayPal donation from there. Whew. I am really grateful to Jeshua for sending us this message. I'm grateful to JM, who was the channel, who was willing to open up. Because you know, when Jeshua started channeling this through the JM, the channel, he'll tell you, he thought I was nuts. He thought his mind was making up the craziest stuff. But somewhere deep in your being, you can feel that this is true. You really can. The mind might be chattering away that it's bull, but you can feel deep down that it's really true. So I'm grateful to JM. I'm grateful to all the beings, including you, because we are still one. We love you with an absolutely limitless love and a perfect peace. Blessings and good night.